Yeah, so the code was designed by Yvonne Delafleur, and this code is basically, it's called the Bhagavad Gita, Winning the Spiritual War. So maybe just, in fact, winning the war of the Bhagavad Gita. So if you haven't, so the Bhagavad Gita is all about a discourse between a great warrior king, Arjuna, and Krishna, his guide or mentor, and very, very powerful. So just maybe type, in the text chat what you feel when you look at this code before I start the clearing. So just maybe type in the chat, just the first thing that comes to you, the first word, or what you feel. Because we can do this on our country, we can do this on our livestock. Let's just, beautiful, vibrant from Gail. I'm going to really step this up and do this over our nation, over our farmers, over our food. Is what I'm going to do today. Yeah, intense, vibrant, powerful. Yeah, very powerful code. Like a doorway, as you can see. So one of the things that Arjuna was told by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which I feel is very relevant today for this code and for William to speak, is he pretty much says, very paraphrased, that it is really kind of like not particularly great and quite disgraceful when a society is being taken over by the dark and the warriors and the kings and the queens of the lights don't do anything about it. And he said, especially what he calls the delusion of renunciation. He said, renunciation, he said, when you're living in a human body, he said, your mind is constantly active. So he said, the whole idea of just going into stillness and nothingness, he said, when you're in that body, he said, is unrealistic until you've conquered and won the war. So what he told Arjuna is, he said, the fastest way to liberate yourself from moksha and your karma is to do your duty as a king, a queen, or warrior and fight basically for the independence and freedom of your country. So it's a very relevant message for Australia today and for US. And he said, because once you do that and you've done that fight, he said, you come to a point where eventually you will experience genuine stillness, like genuine, not just what he calls artificial stillness. Because he said many people who claim to be in renunciation and living in the mountains as shamans, he said, if their inner mind is still very active, he said, no renunciation has really happened. Whereas by contrast, he said, if your mind is basically still, but you're busy in duty, that is one of the highest states of renunciation that you could possibly be in. So yeah, it's a really great one. So what we're going to do now is just focus yourself, or your mental energy between your eyes, right here between your two eyebrows, in the center of your head, between the two eyes. That's your pineal gland. So really put your focus into that center there. And just start to breathe 4 times, like 4 counts through the nose, hold for 3, and out of the mouth for 6. So breathe out of your nose for 4, hold for 3, and out of your mouth for 6. So in through the nose for 4, hold, and out for 6. Activating the Krishna warrior Arjuna code in each and everyone's third eye, and just get a feeling of this code going into your third eye, like inhale it in and feel it enveloping you right through into your heart, through your throat, sort of seeping up into your crown chakra, seeping up above into your 8th chakra and your 9th, and even going further into your solar plexus, slowly seeping down to cover your sacral, and then going down further to get your base. And continue to feel this code expanding and expanding, and to the right, to the left, to the up and down. Start to go up into your 12th, your 13th, 14th, 15th chakras, covering all your chakras as high as 36 inches above your head, and then as high as going right up into the heavens, and going right down to the center of the earth and embracing your earth chakra. So this code is covering every level, every chakra of your divine being. And just feel the code completely transforming and shifting any blocks or any implants or any energetic disruption which stops you being a creative master, warrior, queen, king to do this work. To work for the stability, strength, prosperity, and peace of the nation that you're in. So that is why we're here. There's 11 on this webinar, 11 warriors, the number of 11, the 1-1. And just feeling that warrior prince, that warrior princess, that warrior king, that warrior queen, and that warrior just rising up within you to strengthen you and clear out any things that do not align with the higher frequency and the higher good, to give you new perspective, new power, new authority. To know who you are, just feeling it releasing energies, which it's doing right now. What I'm feeling this code is doing is activating very powerful warrior energies in each and every one here today. Feel your light body expanding. So it's taking up the whole code. So it's going because our light body is gigantic. It goes right up to the heavens, to the end of this solar system, this universe, and we go right into the center of the earth, the furthest place we can possibly go. We are expanded when we're fully in our energetic body. Even get a sense of being in our Christed avatar body, which is our ultimate light body, but as Ephesians says, fills the whole universe, all and in all. And feel that body, which even science now says that every atom in the universe is in you and you are in the universe. This is now proven by quantum and holographic science. So just know that everything that you're thinking, that you're saying, that you're experiencing is affecting the universe and affecting every other living, vibrating being, not only on this webinar, but in our state, in our cities, in our nations, in our southern northern hemisphere, in the world, and even bringing a bleed through karmically through the whole galaxy. And just echoing the words that Christ said, I and my Father are one. Our sins are forgiven. Time is all in the now. Whatever has been is done. All sins are forgiven. All are released. The blood of Christ and through all things it's released. We have a new beginning, a new start. The new next phase of the war is the words I'm getting, which has now begun. The next phase. And new strategies, new templates, new codes, new DNA programming in each and every one of us. To see, think, and be clear and be calm in what lies ahead. For the next stage of opening the portals and doorways for humanity, because that's what I see at the moment. I'm seeing this vision that the next phase of the war is very different to what's been the last 3 years. This is more, the way through this is going to be opening portals, doorways, and stepping into a higher frequency. In fact, someone said about a new timeline. It's more like you'll be opening doors and portals to move into a different timeline, different frequency. So although you're still on this earth, still in this body, it's like it says, the kingdom of God is within us. That we are living in a fifth dimensional, in the kingdom of heaven while walking around on earth right now, opening the doorway or the portal for all who choose to come in. Because and just say this over and over in your heart, I and the Father are one. Because I am God and God is in all of us, when we're all God. That's what the scriptures say. And just keep feeling the upgrading of the templates and the programming, getting ready for the next stage of enlightenment. And just take a sip of water. And before we get William on to take it from here, just type in the chat, or if you feel to take the mic, and just quickly share what you experienced, either in the chat or mic, whatever feels appropriate. Gail started doing this last night. Must have picked up on it. Very powerful. Thank you, Gail. That's great. Suzanne, we are the ones leading others towards beautiful enlightenment. Absolutely. We let the enlightenment be within us, and then we lead others into the same. Irina, I am not a warrior. Okay. Barbara, I'm feeling of peace, love, and beauty. Awesome. Yep. Anyone else? What I might also do is, before William gets up, let me just read a scripture to activate that code for you. And then let William will come on. So Ephesians chapter 6 says from verse 10, finally, my brethren, my sisters, my daughters, queens and kings, be strong in the Lord, the higher intelligence, in the power of the higher counsels and the higher light, in the power of her might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles or tricks or deceptions of Satan, of the devil, of the dark. For we don't wrestle against flesh, against blood, against humans, against other people, against family members, against government entities, against new world orders, against people in Russia, against people in Ukraine, against people in NATO, against Khazarians even, but we're against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, operating from higher dimensions, manipulating and interfering with these people without many of them knowing, to interfere with the people. So therefore, knowing these facts to be true, take up the whole armor of God, the spiritual armor, that you may be able to stand and be strong in your mind, in your heart, and your body, in the day of evil, in the day of attack, in the day of challenge. And when you've done everything that you possibly can and feel like there's nowhere else to go, but you nevertheless stand anyway. Stand indeed, therefore, having your loins, your belts girt with truth, your stability with truth, with honesty, and with knowing what is the truth to set you free. Wearing the breastplate of righteousness, to guard your heart with righteousness, with staying in your higher truth and staying with knowing who you are. Having your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, to live your path, live your purpose, and proclaim the message that you know to be true. And above all else, above anything else that's been said today in the scripture, taking the shield of faith to hold that certainty, that trust, and that faith in a higher good, knowing whether there's food shortages, whether there's foot and mouth disease, whether there's COVID, whether there's great resets, but none of it matters if you're walking in the higher path, because none of that applies to you. Because as Yeshua said, the sons and daughters of God are exempt from all of this. And with that knowledge, you'll be able to quench the fiery darts and the negative energies, words, and thoughts firing into your mind of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation, the helmet of knowing your power, your prosperity, your salvation, and knowing that none of this applies to you when you're doing your work, to protect your mind, and the sword of the Spirit, the weapon and the vehicle you got to attack, which is the word of God and the activated word of power. And finally, praying always of all prayer, supplication, petitions, and manifestation requests, and watching with all perseverance and petition for everyone. On that note, William, I'm going to stop sharing and hand over to you.
Thanks, Warren. All right, well, hi everyone. So type Y in the text chat if you can hear me.
Yep, loud and clear.
Excellent. So I'll just share my screen to my slides now. Okay, well, welcome to today's webinar on fighting the principalities and the rules of this earth, everyone. So last night after the event, as I was talking with Warren and the other team members and other people at the event, this just came to me to do for this morning, fighting the principalities and the rules of this earth. I'm sure you would all agree that it's very much an appropriate topic for what's going on right now. So how's everyone feeling this morning? Gail's feeling relaxed. Tasha's feeling better now. That's great. Christine, good. Thanks, William. Yep, good to hear, Christine. Suzanne, I'm great, loving life. That's excellent. That's just the key. Love and enjoy life. Zoom user, I think that's Sharon, but except for the thought of homework, choosing to be chill. Yeah, homework's never fun unless of course it's something you love. Barbara, good, thanks. A bit tired after yesterday. Yeah, I will say that yesterday was certainly heavy at the event, and I was beat by the time I got home. And then Irina, okay. Okay, so now without further ado, let's get into the webinar. So I thought I'd start off with this scripture that's been said quite a bit this morning. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Because this goes beyond just like the dark spirits and the dark lords. It goes directly into the wickedness, into the evil that actually goes on, like the blood sacrifices, and also like the superconscious powers that they can move in. Because as we all know, Jesus and all these other gurus can do all these great miracles. But then the trouble is, so can the dark, so can these guys, but they can replicate it. And that's why, like, whenever people have done miracles and all, a lot of churches will think it's from Satan and it's from the dark spirits, because the dark spirits have that capability as well. But unfortunately, as we all know, they misuse it. And this is just the thing. I mean, it can be something as simple as someone just going off at you for no fucking reason, like just like insulting you, and then it just seem to come out of the blue. So type a Y in the text chat if you've had people just go off at you for no reason, and it's like you didn't know where it came from. I know I can certainly say that. And Gail said yes. Christine, yep. Because I found that was only a couple of you, okay? Yeah, so I mean, what I've found is that when people do that for no reason, almost every time it's an entity, it's not them talking. And I mean, I'm sure we've all felt it. It's like we feel the change in their energy, the change in their eyes. Almost like it's not them talking, but something else. And Tasha says, yes, my partner has been doing this lately. Okay, so if your partner's been doing that, Tasha, you definitely want to tune into that one and see if there's any entities. And it's not him. Yes, Well, that would be correct, because I mean, like I said, in pretty much all cases, it's an entity that's talking through the person. And once you realize that, then that's when it becomes much easier to speak your truth and to be on the attack when it's needed, because you're not hurting the person, you're hurting the entity. You're going after that spirit. You're talking to them, not the person. Because I mean, we've all seen it. Today's society has become so fucking weak. It's ridiculous. I mean, so many people are so pacified and disempowered now that they can't even speak their truth with their own family or their friends. So type a Y in the text chat if that's been you. If you've struggled to speak your truth with your own family members and your friends. Gail at times, yes. And Barbara, yes. Because unfortunately, as we've all found out, I mean, it all starts in the early years. So it starts from like the time that you're a child, because I mean, up until the age of 12, that's when children are the most susceptible and vulnerable to programming, and when they're the most open. So that can easily be used for good, or it can be misused big time. And Christine, sometimes Vic, yes. Aiden, for as long as I can remember, decades. Because this is the problem. The parents are always projecting their own values and their own shit onto their kids. And because they're doing that, then they're silencing and repressing their child without even knowing that. And then they wonder why their child becomes fucked up as an adult, like where they can't speak their truth and why they refuse to talk to them. And then Sharon, my sister, to my elderly dad, but I think it was her general unhappiness. I don't go deep with family and friends anymore. Well, that's what you find. I mean, the more you go on this journey, the more you realize how meaningless it all is. And even Jesus himself said it in the Bible, that your family is not those who are related to you by blood. Your family are those who are aligned with your values, aligned with, who are more aligned with your values, who are more like you, and basically like replicas of you, kind of thing. So people who will respect your boundaries just as you respect theirs, those are your true family, kind of thing. And Tasha, no problem speaking my truth, but it does not get heard. And that's the other thing too. I mean, you don't speak your truth because it's going to change things. You speak your truth because it's right, and you speak your truth because because it's the right thing to do, and you're being you. And I mean, the beauty with speaking your truth is you've already gotten it out, and how other people take it is their business. And if other people want to get all pissy about it, then they'll get pissy about it, and you can easily remove them from your life. I mean, it's like Warren would always told me, it's far better to piss someone else off than piss yourself off, because you can remove people from your life, whereas you have to live with this. You have to live with yourself, and all it's going to do is build the resentment and the anger within yourself. And Steve, at times in past, but not so much lately. Yeah, well, that's great, Steve. That's great that you're doing it more. And Steve said, law of lesser pisses. Absolutely. And Tasha, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's easy to learn all these lessons, but sometimes it's always good to have a reminder too. Gail, I can't be bothered sometimes now because most don't want to hear it. Well, and you're correct, because most people are fucking losers, and most people don't want to hear the truth, and most people are happy to keep their head buried in the sand in their own version of morality and their own truth. So that's why that's why I don't share my knowledge and wisdom with like hardly anybody besides you guys and in this work, because no one wants to fucking hear it. And most people just want to stay in their own kind of folly. Tasha, I'll clarify this. Yes, for me in the past, I was not able to due to overbearing parents, so I left them all. And yes, that's a very common problem, because most parents are so overbearing, and most parents will be so forceful on their kids and all without even realizing it. And like I mentioned earlier about with their values, projecting their values and their own shit on their kids. And then they wonder why their kids leave them and don't refuse to speak to them. And they wonder why their kids have health problems and all that kind of stuff. It's like my grandmother as an example. I mean, as much shit as much shit as you've probably heard about her, like where with all the jabs that she'll take up the arse and shit like that. I mean, one thing that I will give her is that she can speak her truth and she will communicate all her emotions. And because of it, she's now 80 and she's still kicking alive and well. She's still teaching music and examining it, and she doesn't have any health issues, unlike all her friends who are in wheelchairs and the cripples. And I mean, this is why, as an example, the protests are nothing but a waste of time. Because, I mean, all these people, they think by like screaming and shouting about like the jabs and other issues, they think it's going to do something when it's not. Because, I mean, in WA, there's about 2 million people of us here. And if you only have like 3,000 at the protest, I mean, like that's nothing. I mean, the government will just see it as just some extreme radical group, and everyone else will as well. Because I mean, all these people have a lot of anger. I've found a lot of anger, and they're basically just looking for an outlet to be heard. Because the trouble is, there's no way that these people are ready to go against the government. I mean, if you can't even speak your truth against your own family members and your friends, then you've got no chance against the government, who have that mental strength. They've been preparing for years. They also have all the guns. They have the military power. They have the money, and they're ready for war. And they're ready to strike at any moment. And Irina, I speak my truth, but it just causes conflict with family or friends, think I'm crazy. Well, and that is very much another thing as well. I mean, when you speak your truth, that's the whole point. It does create conflict. It does cause disruption. But that's exactly what we want. I mean, most people talk about, oh no, conflict. I want to avoid conflict, but really, that's just an excuse for them saying that they're fucking pussy, that they're weak. Because I mean, with conflict and disruption, that's how most people will change. I mean, we've seen even with the world. I mean, whenever the world has come out of times of darkness and into the light, it was through disruption. It was through creating that conflict and stirring it all up. Because by being a love and light kind of loosey-goosey movement, it's going to get you nowhere. And all it's going to do is get you wiped out. And Tash says, yes, Irina, the same has been for me. I just didn't go along with it all. And we've also seen it with the woke movement and the cancel culture. Because the trouble is, back in the day, back like when my parents were young and all, the world was too oppressive. And they believed mental health was just a bunch of hula, and they believed and there was racism and sexism and all these other ridiculous issues. But then today, really, it's swung the other extreme. I mean, back then it was too oppressive. Nowadays, it's the other extreme. It's like everyone gets a trophy. There's no winners or losers. We've all seen the participation award bullshit. You get cancelled for saying one bad word. I mean, you can get banned from Facebook nowadays for fucking saying poo-poo head or something stupid like that. So type a Y in the text chat if you've been banned from Facebook for saying certain words. I'll put my hand up for that. And Warren can certainly attest for all the times that he's been banned from it. Sharon said, cracking the whip today, William, love it. Yeah, I'm just being me. I mean, right now it's needed. People need to kick up the arse, as we'd all look at it. And Gail, I've been warned. Irina, I don't use Facebook. Yeah, I mean, Facebook has become kind of fucked now. It's been fucked for years now. And Suzanne, never banned, but fake checkers are rampant. Yeah, like oh yeah, the fucking fact checkers, they're like the worst. I saw recently someone sharing their story that there was a doctor, so someone who's actually practiced in medicine and all, who confirmed that that with the jab and all, when they confirmed that like the effects of it, they actually they got fact checked for false information. It was just crazy. And Aiden, I've been warned and had posts deleted. Yeah, I've had comments deleted as well, Aiden. Well, look at us, just a bunch of bad motherfuckers. Fucking love it. And then going woke and saying men can have babies, transgenders are the new normal, changing words to it like breastfeed into chest feed, etc. That we've seen this as well. All these ridiculous things that you would think is just from a movie. There's no, 20 years, 30 years ago or so, if you said any of that shit, you'd probably get beaten up or put in jail because it's just crazy. And unfortunately, because the woke movement have kind of screamed and shouted and drawn attention, they've managed to take over. And it's up to us to stamp that shit out, to burn it to the ground. And Irina, the political correctness has gone mad. Well, yeah, it fucking has. That's the problem. As I said, back then it was too oppressive, whereas now it's too far the other end. And it's too much in the woke movement. Like saying, oh yeah, you can't say offensive words, it'll hurt their feelings. We need a safe space. Yeah, like fuck off. It's up to you. It's up to you to not take offense to the word, and it's up to you to create that interpretation. It's up to you to create that thick skin and become strong inside and outside. Because that's been the whole issue. People can't even speak freely anymore without being persecuted and cancelled. It's just fucking absurd. And Suzanne, social media doesn't like truth, share truth, and others run scared. Well, correct. The social media are always censoring the truth. And when censorship starts happening, as soon as that comes in, that's when you know that it's been a takeover. Aiden, fact checkers from the Ministry of Truth. Yes, and like I said, fact checkers are the fucking worst. They're like the ultimate losers. Tasha, this is similar to 1920s or so when they burned the books, etc. I had a teacher who was there as a teenager when the so-called witches were burned at the stake. We students used to go to her place and listen to her stories. I was lucky to get it straight from the one who was there. That was the social media there. Well, that's just it. When you have people who were actually there, they'll tell a very different story. And the history books have been altered drastically. They've changed the history when they took over the world, because that's one of the first things they do. They change the history, they change the languages, and they reprogram everyone into their way of being. So then everyone will do the same thing and basically be controlled under their rule. Irina, the opposite of truth is okay, but the truth is censored. Well, that's right. The truth is very much censored, and they've normalized lying and normalized not being truthful and removed all ethical and good business practices even. And Tasha, they deleted the books by burning. FB is deleting. Well, that's just it. Nothing is new under the sun. It's still the same fucking shit. It's just a different outlet. Instead of books, it's now Facebook and online. So it's even the scriptures say that nothing is new under the sun. I'm sure you'd all agree that us as humans, we're the dumbest fucking species. Compared to the animals and everyone here and the other galaxies and the higher councils, we would easily rank in the fucking dumbest category. The amount of times that this shit has happened, and we keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. We fall into the darkness and get corrupted, then we get woken up and back to the light, and then we get tricked all over again. It's just in different forms, and then people are so blockheaded that they can't even fucking see it. Poor Mandela, he has a heavy weight to carry, Suzanne. Yep, he certainly did. I mean, we all have a heavy weight to carry when we're dealing with humans. And Tasha, I keep saying humans are the dumbest animals and birds are smarter. Correct. Birds, lions, dogs, cats, all of them are smarter than humans. I mean, even think of the animals. They're always in abundance. They never lack for anything, with food, with water, with the beautiful trees and the nature. And then think of how many humans will be stuck in poverty and lack. And think that there's like hardly any money on the planet, as an example. And of course, the ultimate one is that having a lot of money is bad. Oh yeah, greedy people do that. When no, I mean, with Christ and the higher councils and the scriptures, it's very much the opposite. They believe heavily in abundance and they encourage you to be rich. And all the great men and women of God were very wealthy people. And Gail, we are one of the only species on Earth that attacks its own kind. Well, literally. I mean, the people are just so dumb that they'll always just try to one-up each other, that everyone is always just really nasty to each other, and they're always just trying to like tear other people down rather than focus on themselves. Because, I mean, think of how many people just focus on other people's lives in the planet and criticize them rather than try to fix up their own fucking lives. Because ultimately, if change, it starts with you. If you can't change yourself, you have no business criticizing other people and trying to change others. Because as soon as we fall into criticism and judging, that's when we're only projecting our own shit, and that we're simply just going outside of ourselves. Irina, I actually think most people can't believe the evil that exists actually does exist. Well, that's just it. People can't comprehend it, and they refuse to. They don't even want to try. And I mean, with people, when people don't want to help themselves, don't fucking bother. And it is hard if you have that rescuer in you, and if you're an empath and a healer, because you can help them. But if people want to stay in their own folly, then let them stay in their own folly. Let them be a loser. Sharon, exactly, because of a memory I got of me calling down full of Atlantis, I've started looking into it. They did the same thing as here, vaccine experiments, creating human animal people, killing those who had energetic powers if they would comply, etc. The parallels are amazing. Well, that again, nothing new is under the sun. It's the same shit, just different outlets. So right now, it's up to us to stamp this culture out. And it's our duty, it's our job, it's our calling. So you want to learn how to become strong inside and out. And the truth is, scriptures are actually a great tool to use when learning to find your true inner power. Because this is what people get wrong about the Bible. I mean, they think it's just a silly book. And the truth is, it is a silly book if you read it from a logical perspective. But when you read it from a more spiritual and third eye perspective, it all becomes clear. Because when your mind is just scrambled and monkey mind all the time, then it's all just going to be in the way. And Suzanne, imagine how God feels watching his creations learn lessons. Yeah, no fucking shit, eh? I mean, with God, I'm surprised he hasn't done another genocide yet. It's just crazy. I mean, with how people behave, I'm surprised God hasn't done worse than he has. And Gail, I think the religions have caused the issues with the Bible. Well, you're correct. I mean, because the way the religion teaches the Bible is a whole bunch of nonsense. I mean, the trouble is that religions have been so forceful, so dogmatic, and religions have done a lot of damage to the world because they've been so extreme in their beliefs, and they read the Bible wrong. They don't even read it properly. And so because of it, they create their own version of morality. And some of the most judgmental people and closed-minded people I've met have been people who go to church every Sunday. I mean, that's been the problem. They've ruined the Bible for the world. And it doesn't help that like the dark also changed the Bible and corrupted it as well, and they got their hands on it. Aiden's religions get hijacked for political power. Well, yes, because the truth is religions have always been like the key to what goes on in the planet. I mean, whenever religions have been on the truth and doing what's right, that's when the planet has done well. But as soon as they move away from that, then you get shit like you do today. So I mean, that's the biggest key. Whatever goes on in religion goes on in the world. Because I mean, if you've read some of the Bible, I mean, the great men and women of God were not wimps or pussies by any means, but they were in fact the opposite. They took shit from nobody, and every time someone came to give them shit, they would just burn them to the ground. And Jesus certainly did that. And I mean, it first starts with you speaking your truth and standing by it in family gatherings and amongst your friends. So if you're struggling to speak your truth and be authentic in that way, then just start small. Start from like in your own family gatherings and your own friend groups, and just start little by little. And the more you do it, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And you also need to be doing regular energy clearings on yourself as well. Because when you do regular energy work, it's keeping you clean, and it's going to make you naturally be able to speak your truth. Because, well, ultimately, the biggest problem we have is so many people have guilt or fear of speaking their truth. So type a Y in the text chat if you've had guilt or fear of speaking your truth. Gail, yes. Barbara, yes. And Sheldon, yeah. Suzanne, not anymore. That's awesome, Suzanne. Irina, of course. And I mean, this is very common. I mean, so many people don't speak their truth because they feel guilty or feel fearful of hurting someone else. But it's like I mentioned earlier, this will help, then it helps you. I'm sure it'll help you. It's far better to piss someone else off than piss yourself off, because you can easily remove someone from your life, but you have to live with yourself. And Sharon, in the beginning, yes, not now. Christine, yes, not so much now. Well, that's great. It's great to see that a few of you have worked on it. And I mean, and another thing that actually helped someone once. So someone I know once was having struggles with someone hating them, and they were asking me for advice. And then, so you know what I said to them? I simply said to them, it doesn't matter if people hate you, because most of them are fucking losers. And do we really care what losers think? Or do we leave them to their own folly? We leave them to the latter, obviously. Tasha, not now. That gets people upset, but they get used to me speaking up. Well, that's just it. You speak up. You speak your truth. If they get upset, that's their fucking problem. And Irina, my mother lived through World War II, and she's scared for me to speak out too much. Yes, well, that would be another thing for you, Irina. You want to be breaking that cycle. You want to be breaking that karma that you've inherited from that. Because the trouble is, the sins of the mothers and the fathers, as it says in the Bible, carry to the 10th generation, and it carries across until it's broken. And then there's this other scripture too, Isaiah 61 verses 3. To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called the trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. So, I mean, just let that sink in for a second, because this one is very much in relation to spiritual warfare. So it's all about putting on the armor of God, and not being afraid to put on the armor of God to fight against the wickedness and prevail against it. Because with God on our side, it's a complete whitewash. The dark spirits have no chance whatsoever. But then at the same time, we don't underestimate them and fall into ego, because that's when they'll strike. And when they strike, we strike even harder. So they're striking right now. So it's time for us to fucking strike hard. And because I mean, this is the reality. Life is all about winning and losing. And anyone who says otherwise is just a fucking woke loser, just living a mediocre loser kind of lifestyle. Because I mean, it's everything in sports, in finances, in love, and with mental, emotional, in every area is all about winning and losing. And anyone who says otherwise, as I mentioned, is obviously a fucking woke loser, just living a mediocre loser type of lifestyle. And by putting on that armor, it's not only a protection, but it also gives you that violence to burn down all evil. And this is what people get wrong. I mean, type a Y in the text chat if you've heard the saying, violence never solves anything. Gail, yes, yep. Amount of times we've heard that from our parents, our grandparents, teachers, everything. Yep, so we've all heard that one before. And the scriptures say otherwise as well. It says, Matthew 11, verse 12, and from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. In other words, God is compassionate and loving, but we've also seen it. He's violent and he takes no prisoners. It's time that we do that same fucking thing. Because we can be compassionate and loving, but we can also be violent and take no prisoners when it's needed. It's all about balancing the light and the dark within us. Because if you have too much light, that's how you get the woke movement and the cancel culture bullshit. If you have too much dark, that's how we fall into self-serving and ego and pretty much murder. Sharon, I don't like violence, but I do believe in standing up against tyranny. Well, absolutely. When tyranny strikes, we strike even harder. I mean, think of it to those who have children. I mean, if the child is screaming and misbehaving, you're going to get nowhere by being nice to them, say, oh no, don't do that, please don't do that. I mean, until you bring up the rod, until you bring in some discipline and confiscating something that they love, they'll just keep playing up and misbehaving. And basically right now, the world is one screaming child. And all that's happening is God is just setting in the discipline, because people don't respond to compassion and kindness. No, people are too stupid to see that. People respond to force, and most people don't change unless something major happens in their life, like a car accident, an illness, or like losing someone they love. It's just shit like that. Tasha says, the goddess says not to hold back and defend with an open heart. Well, that's correct. I mean, that's the whole idea. We protect what we love. We fight for what we love, and we fight for what's right, ultimately. Because, I mean, people will think the most expensive thing in the world would be the Lamborghini, that big mansion, the big pool, or the big like burger, whatever. It's none of those things. The most expensive price in life is freedom, because you're always going to have governments and you're always going to have dark spirits trying to take it away from you. And it's up to you. It's your job. It's your duty to push back, and you punch them even harder when they try to punch it out of you. Because with freedom, it doesn't come easy. We need to fight for our freedoms, fight for our lives, and fight for our children, fight for our brethren, for all of it. Okay, so now what we'll do is just a quick clearing, and I actually forgot to put the code up. So what I'll do is now I'll stop sharing just quickly, just while I get the code sorted. Just give it a minute. Fuck, so it looks like I idioted myself this time. Okay, so does anyone have any questions or comments before you do the clearing? Irina, I'm tired of fighting. Well, it does get like that. We do get tired, especially when like we don't have the support. What's the alternative? Well, there is no alternative really. I mean, if you want, because if we want our livelihoods, if we want to bring the light of the Lord back, it's our job, it's our duty to fight, and we fight until we can't anymore. We fight until we even lay our blood on the battlefield. We don't fight because it's going to work out. We fight because it's right. If we don't fight, we have nothing. And then they'll just swoop in and take control as they please. Because right now we're in a war. And right now it's time for us to taste the blood of the wicked. And one thing that will help you, Irina, is that you can't focus on the outside world and focus on other people's lives. Because as I said earlier, the moment you fall into criticism and fall into projection, then basically you're just being a loser, and you're basically not being in yourself, and you're just looking outside. And the moment you do that, I mean, the trouble is you're just disconnecting from yourself and your purpose more than anything. The best thing you can do is deal with your stuff, deal with your shit, the emotional charges, and balance yourself out and focus on your purpose, because that's ultimately how things will fall into place. Because fighting comes in various forms. Fighting is not limited to just going out into a protest and screaming for our rights and our freedoms. It's not limited to like going out beating someone up. Fighting also comes in the form of us getting on our purpose and getting back to what's right. That's a form of fighting as well. This is what people get wrong. They don't look at the possibilities. They don't look outside the box. And that's why people can't read the scriptures properly, because the scriptures talk about it in many forms, not just one. It's not limited to just one. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Yes, it does. Awesome. Okay, so no other questions or comments? Oh yeah, there's a couple more. And Gail, it's about the inner journey. Well, absolutely. That's where it starts. It starts with your inner journey, and then it becomes about the outer journey after that. Because you need the two. You need both. When you start inside, that's how the outer journey will come into place, and that's how the outside world will change. And Tasha, yes, your purpose is your power, and they cannot fight back because the resistance has nothing to focus on. Well, that's correct. By being on your purpose, by standing by what you believe in, and being yourself, and having that strong connection with the Lord, then really there's nothing that they can do to you. They can't come into you, and they can't shoot implants and other crap into your body. And that's when they go to the next level, and they start to try to trick and deceive you into breaking karmic law. And that's when you need to be sober and be vigilant all the time. So even if you're in your purpose and being who you are, you can't allow yourself to get comfortable, because the moment you do, that's how you become soft. And that's how the dark spirits can trick and deceive you into breaking karmic law and get you and fall into this mess all over again. So really, the more you get into your purpose and the more open you become, the more mindful you need to be, and the more you need to be sober and vigilant. Because the truth is, it's actually easier to be a slave. It's actually easier to be unawake to the truth, because you're mindless, you're like zombified, and so you don't know the truth, and you're just living life as it is. But the moment you open your eyes, that's when you'll experience more sorrow and being more sober than ever before. I mean, just type a Y in the text chat if you've experienced more sorrow and since you've become more open on this spiritual journey, seeing what's going on. And Tasha, yes, remain mindful at all times. Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, absolutely. That's because we need to be sober and vigilant at all times. And Gail, yes, at times. Irina, absolutely. Barbara, yes, definitely. Victor, why? And I certainly have. I mean, I certainly can say that I've had so much more sorrow and all since I've been more open. And Tasha, yes, I had more loss. Well, yes, that's the thing. When you become open, it's like you're being stripped of your identity. You're being stripped naked. It's very vulnerable. But ultimately, in the long term, you'll very much experience the great effects of it. Okay, so now what we'll do is do the clearing. Yep, Irina, yep, it's certainly much easier to be fast asleep. Okay, there's still comments coming in actually. And Tasha, more loss by losing and letting go and of what does not work. Well, that's just it. It says in the Bible to take up your cross and follow me. That's what Jesus said to someone who wanted to be his disciple or whatnot. Take up your cross and follow me. Because the whole point of becoming sovereign and entering this light path is to give up what's most dear to you and letting go of your attachments. Darren, very much so. The sorrow of watching the ignorance of the general population, the seeming pointlessness of this kind of existence. Well, absolutely. Because it is sorrowful watching the ignorance of it, and it seems pointless to be doing what we're doing. But the more we do it, the more we realize it's not. And in fact, it's great. Because that's how we'll get changes. Okay, so now everyone just focus on this code and inhale the code into your chakras and your auric field. And just imagine it there and close your eyes. And just start taking deep breaths, relaxing your mind. We now call upon the divine protection and the bright white pyramid surrounding me and each person here. And we now call upon the 5 archangels, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, Michael, and Metatron, and Christ and Mother Mary. So only those who are aligned with the Word of God and the Christ consciousness. And we clear and repel any false spirit guides, negative energies, outside interferences, or anything else related now. It is commanded by the laws of the golden liquid realms and archangel powers that this clearing code be used to clear any blockages, imprints, or self-sabotage or attachments from each person here around speaking their truth and being authentic, being who they are, and activate their throat chakra to help them become strong inside and outside. And we also clear any higher principalities and powers and rulers from them as well. So we now cast them out in the name of the Lord and clear any karma between each person here and them as well, from past lives, this life, and inherited karma. Clear any other traumas, occupants or aids around that, and bring back their golden soul fragments now to Asia in Tadoi. We also clear any dark and negative energies from each person here that they're carrying. And clear any emotional charges going on within them as well. And help them to come into balance again within themselves and and also outside. Help them to come out of the extremes and engaging in excess. We also clear around the mind, so clear the darkness there and any negative thoughts, voices, or doubts, and clear out any dark clouds around there and veils and evaporate it with the golden liquid light. We also release any tension and tightness from each person here as well. Help them to free and liberate themselves. And Lord, fill them with your strength and your love and pour in the golden liquid light. We send in the love from the higher Father and the higher Mother. Lift off any heaviness or flatness as well from each person here, any drainage, and re-energize them and bring back their vital force energy. Close any portals or wormholes in their auric fields. Tasha just released my tightness, thank you. Yeah, no worries, that's great, Tasha. I did sense a lot of tightness and tension. We also can't sever any draining energy cords or compassionate connections and etheric cords. Bring each person back into their own energy space. Okay, so how's everyone feeling after that clearing? Gail feels stronger inside. That's awesome, Gail. Because, yeah, that was the main sense I had, like, with this clearing, to really strengthen everyone inside and outside as well. Irina, release of sorrow. That's great, Irina. That's awesome. Christine, I'm really sleepy. Wow, so it sounds like that was quite a clearing for you then, Christine. Sharon, calm and energized. Awesome, Sharon. Tasha, free and more grounded. Mind and body are clearer. That's awesome, Tash. And Sheldon, sleepy here too. So it sounds like it was quite a clearing for you too then, Sheldon. Suzanne, relaxed, peaceful, strong. Time for afternoon nana nap. Yeah, you'll all want to take a good rest after this one, and definitely have a drink of water right now after that clearing. Barbara, relaxed and throat clearing and coughing, still processing. Yeah, so just allow it to keep clearing then, Barbara. Okay, so any final questions or comments before I hand back to Warren? Irina, thanks again, William. Gail, thanks. Christine, no questions, thanks, William. Barbara, no questions, thanks, William. Suzanne, enjoy your clearings, thank you. Yeah, thanks, thanks, Suzanne. I'm glad that you enjoy it. Tash, thank you, Phil. Thank you so much, Phil. Much better. Awesome, Tash. That's great. I'm glad you do. Steve, all good. Feeling sleepy after the clearing. Yeah, so everyone just have a good rest after this and take care of yourselves today. Make sure you drink a lot of water too, allow it to integrate. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone. A great session, just something a little different and a great clearing. And I'll see you all next time. I'll now hand back to Warren. Thanks, Sheldon. Are you there, Warren? All right. Yeah, I think Warren's gone, everyone. And Steve, he's gone to the pub again. Yeah, he might. Yeah, he might just be having a few beers. No big deal. Suzanne, he's gone off to be a warrior. Yeah, most likely. A warrior with a few beers. Right, Steve? All right. Yep. So thanks everyone. So I'll be leaving now. So I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.